Good morning. This is the weekly integration on Sunday. My name is Iris. This is Fernando.
Good morning.
And we're here together to integrate. Well, to integrate, I'm not sure. To share with you about what happened in the last week in Espacio Abierto and the program that we have, the weekly program, but basically anything that's happening in your life. The idea is for you to interact with us, to ask your questions, to share what's happening in your life right now, and if there's anything that you feel like you would like to have some answers. We might not have the answers, probably we don't have them, but we might support you in a way to find your own answers, or to maybe find a new perspective on the ideas that you have about what's happening in your life. Thanks for being here with me, Fernando.
Thank you very much.
And we were just talking about what happened in the program this week. We talked a lot about compassion, and we have already shared about compassion on Wednesday, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just sharing about the other topics that came up in the last days. And one thing that moved me a lot was the class of Alberto last night. I don't know if any of you have been there, have seen it. For me, it's been super intense. And not necessarily because what he said was something super new, because the ideas we've been sharing are ideas that we have already shared about before, but the way he's been going there, like one step after the other, deeper and deeper and deeper, was super powerful for me. And maybe, Fernando, if you like, I could share about this. And if any one of you who's already watching would like to ask a question or already share something of their own process, please feel free. And we have Cyril with us here, who's supervising the chat. And if there's any questions, he's going to let us know, and then we can start interacting. That's the idea. So the topic yesterday was, who are you? And what is the idea that you have about yourself? And in the beginning, we were wondering about whether this is a different thing, whether what I believe to be is different from the idea that I have about myself. And we started contemplating about what is the idea that I have about myself, and where does this idea come from? And based on what we've been sharing in the last couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about early childhood trauma in general, the influence of the mother. We were all quite quickly saying, well, the idea that we have about ourselves comes from the outside, comes from what is being told, what they have told us. Mm-hmm. But what I do with this idea when it comes from the outside, I bring it to the inside. And so, what is this idea that I have about myself based on? It is based on something that happened in the outside, that through a perception of mine, through a conclusion that I make about myself, becomes my idea about myself. So basically, by the memory of what happened, I sustain the idea that I have about myself. And so then what happens is that because I have this idea about myself based on what happened in the past, I am recreating situations in my life that are representing the same idea, the same situation again and again, for me to keep remembering the idea that I have about myself. So what we're talking about in general, I feel like we're saying, oh, I'm attracting this situation, I'm attracting that situation, why am I creating this? I am creating my reality in a way so that I can keep my idea about myself. And what me struck most yesterday was then how, like Alberto shared, how it starts with a thought. And when I have an emotion attached to the thought, it creates a character. And the emotion gives life to that thought. So basically, when a situation happens that is recreating my idea, the emotion makes me think that it's real. Because I feel this, it must be real. It's a feeling that, it creates my reality through the emotion. And so then what we ended with, and for me, that's something that I haven't integrated at all, and maybe you can support me with that, Fernando, is that if basically with this idea that I have about myself, or the ideas, because there are more that create my identity, I am basically trying to recreate the same emotion all over and over again, because I need to keep this idea that I have about myself. So then, what if I don't have any memories of how it feels to have success, how it feels to earn money, how it feels to be independent? How do I know how it would feel like? How can I create a reality that supports me to feel like this? So then the only way to get there would be to go against the idea that I have about myself, I think, but I really don't know. What?
Yeah, many things coming now to my mind. It's very interesting that we can differentiate between the idea of who I am or who I believe I am, and how would you say in English, and all the possibilities that I can become. So there are two different things. One is more, as we were talking before starting the program, is related to the past and all the experience and conclusions that I've made, which is the idea that I have about myself. And the other one is the unknown. I have no idea of the possibilities that I can become. I can transform into. It's not transform into, but yeah, kind of. And it came to my mind, my own experience. I'm gonna share. It's a comprehension that I had these days, this week, talking with you, with Cito, with people here in the epicenter. It's how in my last relationships, again, we can say that the pattern repeats, but it's not that the pattern repeats, and it was very, very interesting. It's like I was using unconsciously other people to confirm an idea that I had about myself. Like, I deserve lies, I deserve to be treated like that. But actually, it's not that person was treating me like that. No? It's like I was using that situation to confirm an idea, which is totally different, because I can be pointing out and saying, why are you treating me like that? And then you can say, wait, what is the idea that is sustaining this perception?
Totally.
So this is the comprehension somehow that I wanted to share about the idea and possibilities. I like the word possibilities, because you don't know what what can really happen if you are open to the mystery, if you are open to connect with the world and with yourself from another attitude, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, welcome back. We just had a little internet shortage here in Madrid. I hope you're still there. I think you are, apparently. We were just reflecting upon. I'm not sure if you heard what I said about how everything that happens in the outside could be used to reflect on what's happening on the inside, to see what is coming, what is emerging in me, what feelings come up when a certain situation arises. Because if we use that idea that I create my reality in a way to confirm the idea that I have about myself, I could use the internet shortage as something that could inspire me to see something about myself. And we just talked about how we could feel excluded from the rest of the world, disconnected. The idea of failure came up, and maybe this seems like an extreme situation, like an extreme example. Oh yeah, every little thing, every little thing you can see as, I'm creating this, I don't know. But for me, it's really useful. Even if you use it as a game, like even just saying, oh yeah, why do I need you to have a pink shirt? Like maybe this is to confirm the idea that I have about you. It's like everything that could serve to see ourselves. And what I wanted to share, something that we also talked about last week in the retreat. I was in Hamburg. We shared about how I'm using the other to confirm the idea that I have about myself. And so basically, in any interaction with another person, I'm basing my interaction on the idea that I have about you, on what you said to me yesterday, like what the relation I had with you yesterday. I think we also shared about this in another program, but basically in this retreat we came to the point of realizing that if I come with a group of friends that have some idea about me, basically the danger, if you want to call it danger, is that my group of friends will support me in keeping the idea that I have about myself instead of seeing something new, because they have a certain way of seeing me, they have a certain way of interacting with me. And so by going into a new experience with my comfortable group of 10 friends or 5 friends, it's comfortable, and so this comfort can also keep me in where I am.
Yeah, it looks like we have comments.
We have Deborah. She says, I wanted to share, but not enough space. I caught myself out in a huge persona shadow last week. It was a super tortuous situation with nightmares, lot of journaling, reflections about my last 20 years, an idea of myself. It has a yeah. It's all done.
Thank you, Deborah. I've had the pleasure in working together with Deborah in a retreat a couple of months ago, and I was actually really amazed meeting you back then, and seeing your process, and seeing your openness to change, to see yourself from a different angle. And I don't know how, I don't know what are the things that you've done in your life. I don't know how old you are, but we were in the retreat, and I remember you were the oldest of everybody. You were, I think, around 50, and being in that place of, you came as the one to cook, the one to support, but you were in the place of receiving orders, basically. And I remember you telling me about situations where you were normally the one, you were the one giving orders, you were the one directing a group, you were the one being the one who was being consulted for things, and you allowed yourself to put yourself in a place where you were the one asking questions, you were the one consulting, you were the one not knowing how it works. Mm-hmm. And I found that really amazing and really inspiring, Deborah, for real, because you allowed yourself to be somebody completely new, in a very different place than before. And if all of this has been part of the process of bringing you to the point of I don't remember the word you said, torment, like a very intense experience to go through questioning all the idea that you had about yourself. It's been exactly perfect. Every step of the way has led you to this moment of freeing yourself from that idea. And yes, it's painful. Yes, it can be a painful waking up when I realize all the things that I used to believe about myself, all the ways that I used to maybe torture myself with the beliefs that I had. And this is a similar process that I think many of us are going through these days. Me too. Like I'm seeing all these hidden beliefs that I have about how I believe things are supposed to be. It's in everything. Like it's in the way I move, the way I speak, the way I have sex, the way I eat. Like every little thing is like, wow, I used to believe that this is the way it's supposed to be, and many times it goes against what in my mind I thought I believed. And for me that's the most crazy thing. And thank you so much for sharing, Deborah, because it's beautiful to have you with us in this process. It's beautiful to know that you are out there somewhere, and I really hope to see you again soon, maybe even in one of the next conventions. We're going to have more and more events for people that speak mainly English. And if I remember correctly, for you, Spanish has also been sometimes a bit of a hurdle, so I hope to see you more in these English events, to have your company and your inspiring presence.
I like the idea, because I wrote a text the past days about the butterfly and the caterpillar, and I really, really like that metaphor. And we can connect that with thoughts and ideas that we have about ourselves, because if I still think that I'm a caterpillar, that I eat like a caterpillar, that I walk like a caterpillar, that my surrounder, my friends, my family is still like the environment of a caterpillar, I'm not gonna become something new. Let's say we know that it's becoming a butterfly, but before that you have no idea what's going to come and how it's going to be. It is said that everything in a butterfly is different from the caterpillar. It's totally different. The way the butterfly eats, moves, everything. So if I have an idea, a fixed idea about myself, I'm not going to open myself up to the possibility of something new. That's something I really like.
Totally.
It looks again that we have comments.
Yeah, about Sanya or Sanja.
Sanya.
She says, I got myself to feel into the same pattern all the time, even though I was thinking that I become aware of myself. How to recognize those patterns and how to deal with them and become more conscious.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So it's so nice to hear that Sanya is also over there. We met in Waterford, in Ireland. She's from Croatia. And I'm so happy that we are all kind of connected through this technology. And so how to recognize the pattern? I think that it's connected with, again, the same thing, that we have an idea about ourselves. And as I was sharing my experience with these patterns in relationship, is the word use is coming again to my mind, because Alberto was sharing the other day that we use others. So I would really like to go there again, if you agree.
Yeah.
He was saying a phrase in Spanish, which is kind of not the same in English, because it's difficult to translate, is I am not interested in you. And then we were changing it, saying you not, like you don't, I'm not interested about you, you not. Yeah, it's so hard to translate in English. Interest me. Basically, the idea of this phrase is that if I really connect with you from purity or pureness, purity, okay. We have our cameraman here correcting in our English. If I connect with purity, I'm not going to sustain the idea that I had about you based on a past experience. For example, I'm not going to sustain the idea that I had about myself based on past experience. I'm going to dive into the unknown, and I will be able to observe these, let's say, patterns, as Sanya was saying, and I will be more here and now, feeling the presence, allowing everything to happen in a way. And it's a challenge, or it is challenging, because we are, in our mechanism, in our mind, unconsciously, we are trying to keep that idea. That's why I would like to go back to that triangle that we were sharing with Alberto about thoughts, which is the same as an idea, are synonym. Thoughts, ideas, conclusions that we made and that we somehow grabbed and we try to keep them alive. So the triangle has 3 words or phrases about thoughts. It's the structure of thoughts. The first one was that a thought is a conclusion. So it's something that, yeah, you would like to write it down.
It's upwards, downwards.
It's upwards, yeah, it was. So you have at the top of this triangle, it was saying that a thought is a conclusion. It's a fixed idea. For example, when we say, I am Argentinian, we use the verb to be in order to fix something. Or I am vegetarian. So it's like also again a fixed idea, and it's somehow not allowing new things because you have a fixed conclusion. Then on the left, it was thoughts don't want to change. So it was here. Okay. Thoughts are conclusion.
And then thoughts?
Thoughts don't change or don't want to change. In Spanish, he said don't want. It's like they are alive. So let's say that a thought will try, and then on the other corner we said thoughts want to remain, no, to perpetuate. Like, they want to continue repeating, perpetuate.
Perpetuate.
So it's connected with the second one. That's why I said the third already. So the thought will try, let's say, to keep the same, and will try to repeat again and again. So we have the illusion of, how do you say in English? The illusion of la mismidad, the illusion of being the same. So when I'm and this is so interesting when we go there. Again, if I am connected to you, here is where I can observe. If we continue with Sanya's question about pattern, first is that, as you said, as a baby, as a child, I receive information from the outside. So I am being charged with programs, ideas about the environment. I make them mine, and then I try to keep them by repeating, either by thoughts or behaviors or emotions, as you said. But what I wanted to share here is, in a relationship, it's not only that I have an idea about you, like I have a thought about you, but it's also the idea that I have about myself, being with you. And it's really complex, this part, and we could observe this mechanism with a game that we did here with Alberto also. We already shared this in another program. We had a bucket with, let's say, the name Iris. And here in the Comuna, we all share our thoughts about Iris. So I grabbed a piece of paper, and I wrote everything that I thought about her, anonymous. Then I just put that paper into the bucket. It's like 30 pieces of paper here with 30 people. And then we shared these thoughts. And what Alberto said about this game, one of the things he said, it's that it's very, very interesting that we allowed ourselves to express our thoughts about others, because actually after this game we realized that those thoughts are talking about myself. So it's a game, tricky game, so we can project first everything that I think about you, but those thoughts about you are unconsciously helping me to sustain a fixed idea or conclusion that I have about myself and how I relate to the world. In this case, how I relate to you. It's very complex. I don't know if people are following this. I would like to know. But we have some comments, Lux, again.
Yes. It's from Rebecca. You say, I can relate with what are you saying. What I find difficult is how to relate to friends and family without repeating old patterns. When they are expecting or manifesting who they think I am.
Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Beautiful question.
Very beautiful question. To me, it has to do with what Fernando just said about me using you to sustain the thought that I have about myself. So in a way, I can use my family and old friends to stay attached to an idea that I have about myself. And the moment I truly start, the moment I see what are the things that I'm sustaining with the other, I can, through the act of observation, this idea about myself changes. So you will see that in the interaction with your friends and family, and this doesn't happen overnight, and you've been with us for some time and you see it changes sometimes over months or years, the interaction that I have with somebody who is in the old idea of me will change with me changing the idea about myself and me changing the idea about the other. And by changing, I don't mean that this is something that you are actively doing. This is something that happens through the act of observation. Because the moment you realize that the interaction with the other is sustaining a certain idea, the moment you see that idea, you will not be able to sustain that type of interaction anymore. So if I don't know what would be a good example for this. Like if in the interaction with my mother, for example,
Good example. Wow, my mother. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, wow, I don't know. If I sustain the idea of the little girl that needs her support, the moment I realize that I'm not that little girl anymore, or maybe that I never was, but the moment I realize that this idea is not who I am, my interaction with her changes. Even if she wants to stick to that idea, she cannot stick to this idea alone. And this is maybe a nice example to do this relationship thing. You know, like Fernando and I have ideas about each other. So I have some idea about Fernando, and he has an idea about me. And with this idea, we connect in a relationship. And the moment I want to sustain this idea. I want to believe I want to keep this idea that he has about myself, and I want to stay in this type of interaction. But the moment Fernando stops to interact from that place, the relationship disappears. And so if he stops sustaining this type of relationship, I have nothing to hold myself to. So I cannot keep this interaction. And this is what happens to us, but this is also what happens to the other with whom I'm interacting. Like your family, your friends will not be able to, they cannot keep you in that place if you stop reacting like you used to. And this is also maybe related to go back to Sanya, because she was saying, what do I do? And in this, to answer to that, basically the unfortunate answer is you can't do anything. The only thing that you can do is to observe how you interact and to observe this pattern that you're creating all over and over again, to really be able to detect that idea that you have about yourself. Because behind this pattern that you are still creating, even you say you've seen it, you've analyzed it, the underlying idea is still there. And for this idea, you are still creating the same pattern. And I don't know which pattern that is. I don't know if you have somebody to share about this, if you want to share here. But basically, as long as you keep continuing to maintain this pattern, it's because you still have the same idea. And until you comprehend that this idea is not who you are, you will continue this pattern. And for that reason, I would like to invite you to embrace this pattern, because this pattern is a beautiful representation of life to show you this idea. And this pattern is super important for you, to be able to see yourself for who you think you are, and to let go of that idea eventually. Don't despair, it's already happening.
Yeah, I would like first, before the comments, to share also some things. First, it's when Rebecca was sharing her comment, Zero, I felt how connected we are, everyone in. It's like a net, and we in this net we are sustaining ideas. Really, like for example, let's say about Rebecca. Okay, it's not Rebecca building herself or building her image. It's all of us together building the idea that we all have about her, including, of course, including herself, as an example, or me, all of us sustaining an idea that we have about myself, about Diego or Fernando, and the same with you. This is the first thing that I wanted to share after Rebecca's comment, because I really felt, especially in her situation that we share with her family, and connected with that idea, with her example, it came to me the fear that we may experience of rejection or exclusion when something new is happening, is trying to manifest, and we start experiencing that because of the comments coming from the outside, the ideas coming from the outside, that something is wrong. That I'm not receiving the same, let's say, love that I was receiving before, which is not love. That's why I did these quotes. It's the same, maybe attention, or the same, yeah. So this is the second thing, and then it came to me also the memory of my experience with when I started here in Inner Mastery, when I went to my first retreat, and then I came back to my, let's say, house in Formosa in Argentina, and then during months, my friends and my family, they were letting me know that something was changing, and that they didn't recognize me as I was before, because something was changing. And this process, I think all of us who are in this journey, we are feeling the same. Sanya again was saying something similar. So it's like, especially we always say in the retreat, when we finish the retreat, the last day, we normally say, now is when the retreat starts. When you go home, when you go back home, is when everything really the challenge comes, because during these 3 days, 4 days, 11 days that you were in the house, in the epicenter, you were experiencing this movement and metamorphosis as this butterfly. And then you go back home, and yeah, you're not the caterpillar anymore, you're a butterfly. But people around you didn't see that process. They were with their old image of you, and this net is trying to capture you again back in that old perception. So it's very interesting if we are aware of this, so we can allow this transformation to happen.
And I hear many times this question, this fear that, so how will I be able to relate to my old friends and my family if I'm changing? And oftentimes this fear comes up, maybe I will not be able to be friends anymore with these people, or maybe I will not be able to interact with my family. The truth is that it may happen that some of your friends will not be your friends anymore after a while. But those friends that love you for you, for your essence, for who you are, they will also love you when you show yourself from a different angle. And those that cannot allow you to be your most beautiful self, your powerful expression of yourself when you connect to your potential, if those people cannot deal with that, maybe these are friends that you're going to lose, and maybe then they are not real friends. And this is a risk. Like we do change the people we interact with in this process.
Yeah, it's it depends. We always say who is listening to these phrases.
Yeah.
But it came again, the metaphor of this caterpillar and the butterflies. Like, butterflies are friends with butterflies. Butterflies are not talking with caterpillar anymore. But again, let's be careful with this example, because it's again the same thing about especially with family, parents, daughters, sons, boyfriend, whatever, this we're not saying that we need to change that or that it's going to change, but it's part of the metamorphosis of the transformation. And in one way, for example, as we were saying, and this example comes from Michela. She was the one saying that when she moved from Italy to Colombia, and then when she came back, that her friends were not recognizing her anymore. And we can use that example. If someone comes and says something to me like, you were not like this, or you used to be more lovely with me, I can use, again, the word use, I can use that experience in order to observe what is happening, why I am manifesting that around me, which old part of me is the one that doesn't want to die, basically. That I'm manifesting outside, someone coming and saying, hey, Fernando, but you used to do like this, or you used to be like that. Yeah, maybe. Thank you for reminding me. It's a beautiful souvenir, you know. But it's not happening anymore. And the thing is that it doesn't mean that I don't love you anymore, or that you know, this is the tricky part, because we have a misunderstanding about love. And we know that unconditional love allows transformation. And we support ourselves in this net to transform ourselves all the time, not to keep the same, not to keep repeating. Also, if it's something beautiful, repeating this, I don't know, when we hug and I really felt connected with you, then tomorrow I will want the same hug with the same intense, and if it's not the same, so something changed here and you don't love me anymore, and blah blah blah. We know the story very well, I think.
Yeah.
Do we have any comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's repeat this one sentence that you said again to give it power.
Okay.
Unconditional love supports transformation.
Yes, I like that. Well, Sanya says thank you to both. And it was a comment from me. When I was in Barcelona, we did several dynamics, but maybe dynamics of a whole day. And it can help to see more clearly in what mechanism or pattern I am. For example, if you have enough confidence with someone, if you feel really that you love with another, but you see that both are sustaining that, stay in that place of identification, you can say, or like to put it into the table, a dynamic, for example, to say to that person, listen, I am really in pain by this identification. I don't like this. I really don't like this. So could you please don't support or not buy this image that I am sending to you? Please, from all my heart, don't sustain that. And I say that in Barcelona, and they say, great, we are not sustaining it, but we are trying to see how to not to do it less, or to do it, or to be more conscious about this. And also another dynamic that we do is like a day of silence, not from them to each other, from them to me. And it was awesome. It was awesome because it makes me like confront with silence, with see another person and that person don't talking to me, don't trying to interact, don't trying to fake smile, and yeah, it was very deep because like physical. I was feeling like physical things, strange things, emotional things. Yeah, it was very strong. But I understand that you can do it here easily. It's very easy to do it here, but maybe in the outside and people that doesn't understand this kind of dynamics is more hard. So this.
Thank you. I was thinking about two different situations from what Ciro was saying. One was in a retreat, Carlos, in Barcelona. It's a friend of us here. When we were finishing the retreat, at the last integration, he was saying something like, I know that I don't look like I like hugs, but please don't believe me anymore. I really love hugs. So even if I look like I'm rejecting hugs, please approach and hug me. And after 1 month, let's say, we met again, and he kind of, I was projecting on him that he was still in this, closeness and rejecting, like very serious. But as I knew this thing, I could go through this process of not sustaining that image anymore and just approach and hug him, and it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable at that moment. But when you pass through that limitation, it's beautiful actually. So this is the first thing that came out of what you said. That again, in this net, we are all sustaining images of ourselves all together, and we can either be aware of this, observe this, so we can allow transformation, or we can repeat the same because we also want to remain the same.
It's like, please don't allow me to use you anymore to sustain my idea about myself. It's like saying that, no, please, Fernando, don't allow me to use you to sustain the idea of shit that I have about myself.
Totally,
No?
totally.
It's like that. It's like, and at the same time, if I don't sustain the idea that you have about yourself, we can meet from a different place. We can be completely new.
And
Yes.
the second idea that came was when we were doing this game of thoughts with buckets. Leila was here, and she received quite a lot of, let's say, negative thoughts. And she was surprised. And it was beautiful to observe that process, that moment, because she said something like this. She said, wow, I'm really, really surprised. I didn't perceive like that before. I didn't know that you were perceiving that from me. So she was not even aware of these thoughts and images. And she said, and the thing that I comprehended here now is that unconsciously I am selling you this image, and you are buying this image very well, and that's worries me, she said. And that was beautiful because actually it was like, and after she said that, something like really fell, and let's say that I could see her with purity. It's the word that that process was really interesting. How we unconsciously, let's say me in this case, I don't know, maybe how many things I'm doing now unconsciously for you to buy this image that I want unconsciously to sustain, and I need you, and I'm using you to sustain this image, la la la. So it's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah. Wow. I think this was a beautiful closure. Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us today, for watching the channel, for sharing, for connecting. And I really hope we can connect again soon. Maybe already tonight at 7 p.m. Spanish time. Fernando and I were going to lead the evening program, and it will be about original wounds. We continue that series. And today, apparently, superficially, we will talk about abandonment and rejection. And we will see where that will lead us. So, hope to see you soon. Thank you all, and have a great Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.